Disclaimer. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. And
That's not true. We are here to speak the truth.
This is satire.
We're here to speak the truth.
This is satire.
We're here to speak the truth.
Okay, let's start. Let's start.
All right. So, my name is Iago,
My name's Trevor.
and we actually have a special guest, grade 12 IB student from a local high school. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, guys. I'm Theo.
Yep. Nice to meet you, Theo. And just about the topic we're going over today, we want to talk about, English, the course in high school that lots of you are probably familiar with, and particularly some of the flaws that might exist within the current school system, and specifically how English, a subjective subject, is graded. Yeah. So I'll just pass it on to Trevor.
Of course. So, to give some background context, so we are in the IB program. We are taking IB, English, language and literature, HL. It's notoriously a difficult course to reach the top grade band in. Perhaps not just because of the course itself, but maybe because of some certain individuals that may be involved in the administration of the course.
Yeah. Let me just briefly explain what he means. So, our friend, he had a 97 in grade 10 English, had a great relationship with his teacher, and then we moved on into IB English, where there's a separate department at the school, and all of a sudden, despite the fact that he was writing the same essays and doing the same assignments and putting in the same amount of effort, if not more, he dropped to an 80%, a 17% drop. Now, of course, maybe he was off his game, maybe he wasn't working his prime, but of course, we might also want to address the fact that the teaching changed and the teacher changed. And this is something we've seen and we believe in English, is that it's very inconsistent. And this is typically due to the fact that every teacher's opinion, every school, they have a different system, a different view on how English works. And this results in a lot of inconsistencies in how it's graded.
Thank you, Iago. Now, I do agree with the point that English is, at its core, a very subjective course, and thus it becomes a difficult course to grade. Now, with the example of your friend who dropped 17%, the subjectiveness of English is really highlighted in that you can have a good relationship with the teacher and then drop by that much when you don't know them. And I think that's why IB English in particular is very difficult, because it's, at the end of the day, being graded by external people in a different country. It's either like UK or Switzerland. And because of that, the way that we are being taught in high school is not actively preparing us for those those actual exams, since each teacher takes their own unique approach to teaching the course. And IB, whether or not they have like a recommended way to go about teaching the course, there's no way to actually enforce this, making English challenging for all students, because what they are being taught in school, which school should be a place that they are like being prepared for these exams, it is not actually applicable to the actual testing that's taking place.
I think, you mentioned something about being enforced, the IB, and this is something that reminded me of something. So let me give you a story. So our friend, I'll just call him L for privacy's sake. So speaking of IB, one frequent phrase I've actually heard several of our IB teachers say before, not just in English, even in science, is that the IB gives them certain general guidelines, but if they believe that they are flawed, or they believe that their own opinion is more correct, they ignore them. And I found that comment quite interesting, and let me provide an example. So, going back to our friend L, he was working on a assignment, supposed to be preparing for the internal oral. And in this case, he was, working in class, just starting his brainstorming. And you know how it is in this day and age. He wanted to use a little bit of AI to help him, find some points and, do a little bit of rudimentary analysis so he could build off of that. And there might be some things inherently wrong with that. But if we look at the actual IB policy, it states clearly, image on the screen, if you're listening alone, I'll read it out for you. It states that teachers should be adhering consistently to the IB policy, and particularly with the use of AI. It claims the IB will not ban the use of AI software. And it also says later on that AI is allowed to provide a starting text, but the student will still need to understand how and why to refine the text given to improve its impact. Essentially, completely allowing for the use of AI to even give you a complete script as long as you edit it, and you still have to know it to analyze it properly. And so the teacher, who I will not name, came over and saw his tab on his Google Doc, which I don't know why he'd have it open up in public, but he had the tab open called AI prompt. And the teacher, seeing this, immediately confiscated his technology, took him out into the hallway, maybe not even the hallway, and basically publicly humiliated him in front of the entire class for the use of AI. So once again, denigrated even, but once again, this is not behavior from the teacher that is in line with the IB policy. And so you have to wonder, do these teachers have too much freedom? And like you said, IB cannot actually enforce the rules that they are making. And so if this is something that happens here, it's a safe case to assume it could happen in other schools, other places, and so other classes even. And as such, once again, there is that sense of an unfairness, which I don't think is something that we want to see in education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another point to bring up. You might be wondering, AI isn't that good at writing. Why would he even be using AI for his essay? Well, maybe it's because the assignment was due during our exam week for IB. So I recall during that week we had 2 exams, and our teachers decided, hey, yeah, let's start our presentations the same week. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's could be in a question. Like maybe when you see all your students using AI, you don't blame the students, but you begin to wonder, why would the students have to use this in the first place? And maybe upon some internal reflection, you realize maybe it's because we're not giving them any fucking reasonable time to do their assignments, and so they feel pressured and they have to. Because unfortunately, it's hard for someone to write an entire essay, study for the exam, get 8 hours of sleep, go to the gym, go outside, touch some fucking grass, and have a life.
But yeah, by the way, the assignment did not have a Dropbox.
Oh, yeah, you just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
The assignment that they were submitting and that he was working on did not even have a Dropbox. So once we, finished all that work, all that hard effort, thinking it was due that day, turns out there was an extension. Thank you.
No, it wasn't an extension.
No extension?
It was just that
there was just no
they
Dropbox.
forgot to put the Dropbox.
That's very
I don't know if that's
interesting.
better. That's probably
worse, no?
It's probably worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll let you talk about this next little point of interest.
segment.
Yes.
I can talk.
Yeah.
So, we have a friend who unfortunately was not able to join us today. Well, we had an incident in which we were submitting essays, and he wrote, worked his ass off, wrote a very good essay, and then, some other girl at our school, very well acquainted, I'll say, with the teachers, goes up to him and say, "Hey, could I see your essay?" And she proceeds to copy the essay, paste it into a paraphraser, so changes it up a little bit, submits the exact same essay.
And would you like to take a guess as to who got the higher grade?
I have to probably say the girl closer to the teacher.
Well, you would be correct. That's 100 points for you, sir. Yes, they submitted the same essay. One guy worked on it. One girl just copied and pasted it and entered it in with a bit of paraphrasing, the exact same ideas, and she got a higher grade by a significant margin of around 7%, which is not something that you can say is just based on the fact that her word choice might have been slightly different. Mm-hmm. Because obviously the most important part about English is the ideas you're saying, not necessarily if you use the word, a stronger word.
Yeah, another note to add, we're not criticizing the IB. I think IB English, their rubric is very consistent. A good essay is a good essay.
Yes.
And that is not what we're criticizing.
Yeah.
Maybe another day, but for now,
The delivery might be a bit more of an issue than the actual product itself.
Yeah.
The core of the issue is not IB itself, but rather how the IB diploma and the teachings of the English course are not consistent across the entire world, and thus that makes it difficult for students internationally to have an equal opportunity to score well on the exam, and also because they're not as adequately prepared for it depending on their school's English department.
Yes, of course. Speaking of not being prepared, so we just, as mentioned, came off of the teachings of the grade 12 English course in preparation for our exams. And I'd just like to note that the assignment we had for the paper 2, so those who are not familiar, this is a written essay. It's comparative, comparing 2 texts you wrote. And so you think, to prepare us for this, we would have a practice essay. And that's a logical thought process. If you're thinking that, congratulations, you have a brain. But unfortunately, the same cannot be said necessarily for the individuals who are teaching us, because they decided that, let's do an oral presentation with Google Slides instead. Yes, no essay, no script. It was going to be an oral presentation, 20 minutes long, and a group presentation. Because when you're writing your IB exams, you're going to go to your 3 closest friends and ask them for ideas. If you couldn't tell, I'm being sarcastic because that's not allowed. So you might be wondering, why would they make it a group project, timed and in different format than the actual exam, if they're trying to prep us for the exam? And to that, I cannot answer you, because there is no logical answer. It is simply irrational.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of the IO, do we want to touch on the IO?
Yes, the
IO.
IO. So if you don't
Speaking
know,
of
yes, internal oral. This is like a 10-minute speech that is administered by all IB. It's one of the requirements, similar to paper 1, paper 2. It's a 10-minute speech on, once again, 2 different works. And essentially, you just analyze them. There's a whole structure, zoom in, zoom outs, but we're not going to bore you with all the details. It's essentially a 10-minute verbal essay. And once again, the administration of this assignment might not have been exactly done in the best or fairest way. I'll let Trevor expand on that.
Yes, Trevor.
You're Trevor.
Oh, I am Trevor.
Yeah, sorry. I think he forgot his name. That happens sometimes. He's a little slow.
Yeah. First things first, there's one particular class that I like to talk about. That
Move the mic closer to your
yes,
to your.
my boy
Yes.
Theo was a part of. Would you care to elaborate on that first before we get to anything else?
Essentially, I found with my experience with the internal oral assessment is that grading is not consistent, even with across teachers in the same school, in the same English department. There were classes where students who otherwise would consistently average perhaps in the low 90s, averaged in the low 80s on this oral assessment. High 70s in some cases as well. And the disparity between teachers' grading was also visible through this assessment. There were classes where the highest marks, there was a singular individual who scored who scored a level 6, and every other student aside from them was scoring 4s or 5s. And because of this, one may wonder what is the cause, and why is a teacher going separate from the IB diploma? And
Yeah.
yes, obviously they follow the rubric at least to a great extent while grading,
To some extent
while grading. But why should there be such a great disparity among classes? Since the majority of the high achieving students don't tend to end up in the exact same class.
All right. Yeah, and as Theo was saying about this discrepancy, this disparity, this gap, this inequality, what is the cause of this? And so I'd want to talk about what the teacher has to say. Teacher has an influence in this, and particularly his teacher. So allow me to mention a quote that Theo shared with me that, his teacher said. So essentially, there are a few types of teachers. There are teachers who act in the best, or at least try to act in the best interest of their students. Somewhat of a fiduciary, even a familial relationship, as some teachers like to use the metaphor of children when referring to their students.
Of course.
And so doing their best to help them get better, get those grades they want so they can get into that program and have a bright future ahead of them. And then of course there are teachers who take on more of a regime, more of a authoritarian, dare I say, approach to things, and they believe in truly following the system down to the really last detail, seeing students as nothing more than individuals. And this might be the type of teacher that Theo had, because she claimed, and I quote, that she purposely lowers everyone's grade in the class below the actual grade she thinks, according to the IB mark scheme, that they would get, because she believes that they did not deserve the grades that they were getting because they were too high, in her opinion. Yes, in her opinion, against the opinion of the thousands of people who worked on IB, against all the mentors of the past, she believed that her opinion is above all, and therefore the grade should be lowered because she, the sole individual, believes that they should not be that high. And so I'll let my guy Trevor talk about grade inflation as a overall topic.
Yeah, grade inflation is obviously a problem, not in this case of our English course, but we'll get back to that. Grade inflation is an issue, a growing issue in our current high schools, and even universities like Waterloo have been shown to be purposely docking points off of students' averages because the schools are simply inflating their grades too much. However, one teacher, one individual cannot change that. If you are the teacher single-handedly lowering all the grades of your students in your own class, that obviously is only going to disadvantage them, because obviously their classmates in other classes are going to keep getting those high grades. So in fact, by trying to counter this grade inflation, as Theo was saying, fucking ridiculous, because who are you benefiting from this other than, well, no one. You're just enjoying they're just enjoying their pain. So
Yep.
the issue is not grade inflation is the issue, but the solution is not to deflate the grades of your students.
Yes. The vision may be just, but the application was
Yeah, it's more of
not great.
We'd say more of a system issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
But less of a system issue and more of a perhaps personal issue is the teachers are well aware that these grades, as we were mentioning, are important for getting into university. Increasingly students are having these high GPAs, and as such, you need to have also a competitive GPA as well if you want to get into those top programs in the US, in Canada, and UK, and across Europe, Asia, and wherever you may be. You need a high grade. That's something universal. But there's the interesting thing. At, the school, particularly of our guest, the students all of a sudden who were averaging, low 80s, mid 80s, high 70s in the IB program, one day, all of a sudden on the next assignment, bam, 96, 97, 97, 98, 97. Everyone is getting high-ass grades that are near perfect, essentially, according to IB's definition, according to, just definition. And this is interesting because, you might wonder what changed. Well, what changed was, perhaps they got a little better, but this such a drastic leap in skill is unrealistic. And so there's some other factors at play. And in this case, it is time. Because this occurred in the second half of grade 12, where, importantly, everyone had already submitted university applications, and as such, other than conditionals, which are essentially low 70s, mid 80s, or maybe for additional scholarships, your grade no longer matters because you're already getting offers from universities. which means that these teachers are well aware that students.
Let's not go that far. We can let the reader imply.
Oh, we can. Okay, yes. Well, that message is a little strong. Therefore, we'll let the reader take their own interpretation.
Yeah, we'll let the readers infer.
Well, referring to you as readers, but you're more like listeners, if anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Audiences, you would say.
Use the audience may be able to pick up on what we're putting down. Yes. Put together the puzzle pieces.
Yes. We can talk about the IO a bit more, no?
Yes.
First thing, we have a friend. We can call them K.
Yes.
Yes. Well, during his IO, in the middle, lights turn off.
Yep.
Lights turn off.
So during the IO, you are given a piece of paper that gives you 10 dot jots, so you know what you're going to say next during this oral speech. You know what you're going to say next. You know where your ideas are flowing, and you know your transitions. And IB gives this to you because, of course, it's unrealistic that someone's going to memorize an entire 10-minute speech. Nobody has the time for that, or necessarily even the soft skills for that. However, during his IO, where, it'd be great to be able to see your script, the lights turn off and you can't see anything because the room that they chose to do the IO in is essentially in a corner of the school that has no light, no windows, nothing. And it's pitch black. And
he's forced to go to the window.
Yes, he's forced to go not to the window, but to the door, which has a slightly translucent material, so that the light from the accompanying hallway can somewhat shine on his paper. So essentially, he's going blind with no script. He also cannot see the timer to tell him what time he is at to pace himself.
The timer was also gone from the power outage.
Yes, he was gone from this power outage. And so you think, oh, okay, obviously, just redo it. This is unfair,
Yeah.
It's an extenuating circumstance.
Of course.
But no, the teacher decides, yeah, this is fair. We're just going to continue and with this, this interruption, and you're just going to get graded based off that.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, very fair. I mean, why would you need to look at your script that was, allowed for you to IB, and why would you need to see the timer to pace yourself? Yeah, like.
Yeah, you gotta
surely
go through the moment.
Yeah, that wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, like life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what's gonna happen. You just gotta adapt to it. Yeah, very fair. Very fair. Once again, we might be implying something, but that's really up to you to interpret.
Yeah, I guess we have one final topic.
Yes.
So, current semester, as you know, we are approaching exams, and our teachers generously started preparing for our paper 2 a month before.
Yeah, 1 month.
Generously? Okay, yeah. We got a mock assignment, right?
Yeah. Keep in mind we had 3 semesters, so 1.5 years of school, and they decided to do it in the last month.
Yeah, it's fine. A month, plenty of time.
It's fine. A month it's still some time, yeah.
Plenty of time, but no, I think the time is adequate. But the bigger issue at hand is we are currently the IB rubric has gone through a update. So in the paper 2, the new 2026 curriculum, paper 2 has actually shifted their rubric, and criterion B, if you're an IB student, you would know, titled analysis and evaluation has shifted. And it's split into 2 sections marked out of 5, and criterion A has been changed to be weighted lower, and instead of being out of 30, it's now weighted out of 25. And yeah, you can make a guess as to which rubric we're currently using.
Yeah, it seems that perhaps there's some miscommunication happening, but they're not exactly up to date. Perhaps if they check their email every now and then, they would see an email from IB that would say, curriculum change. They are now supposed to grade students differently. But, as it seems, some teachers may be stuck in the past. And, very traditional, maybe that's a cultural thing, maybe.
Yep.
But as I say for a third time, the trifecta, we might be implying something here, but that's once again up to you to interpret.
Yep. I think that's it for the podcast, right?
Yep.
Good first episode.
Yes, good for episode. As to the overall message, I think it's clear that there might be some holes in the English system, but what in particularly we believe those holes to be is we've touched upon a little bit, and perhaps imply that. But once again, this podcast is all up to you in terms of interpretation, and it's mostly for entertainment and as a piece of satire.
Of course.
But if any of this resonated with you, just know that we're with you, bro.
Yeah, perhaps we'll make a future episode on
Or sis.
how to get a 7
Yep.
in IB English.
Yep.
Yep. This is
We'll teach you how to rise against the system.
Trevor signing out.
Yep. And this is Iago signing out.